FM.
Luca Radio 92.7.
Hello, Chattanooga. You're listening to All New Radio here on newradio.com. I'm Keon Rose, listening to Clutch with Keon Rose. Thank you for joining me. However you're listening, whether you're listening on Facebook, on YouTube, on the podcast, or right on the airwaves in your car. I appreciate you. I want to talk about that home run derby last night. It was cool. Bryce Harper won the home run derby in front of the home crowd. It was a great moment, but I don't know if I've ever watched a home run derby that had me on the edge of my seat the way the home run derby did last night. I completely was gripped by it. I was in here. I was doing the sports update. I had the home run derby pulled up on my computer, and Bryce Harper coming back against Kyle Schwarber. Kyle Schwarber had, I think, 18 home runs in that final round of the home run derby, and Bryce Harper ripped off about 15 in a row just to tie the thing up and get to that bonus time when he could go for that final home run that gave him the win. The Nationals fans were blowing the roof off of the arena. There's no roof at the stadium, but you get my point. Like, everyone was happy, especially in a season like this one where if you're a Nationals fan, outside of that first month, nothing's gone right this season. Absolutely everything has gone completely downhill. But I think that Bryce Harper might just be the coolest player in sports. I think Bryce Harper's the coolest player in sports, which is not the same thing as being the greatest player in sports. And that there's a level of subjectivity there that I don't know how you even would parse out who's the coolest versus who's the greatest. I don't even know where you would begin to figure something like that out. But I will say this. Bryce is the coolest. Like, you could figure out very easily who the coolest is. And that's still going to be up to your opinion, but at least that's obviously subjective. When we have greatest of all time conversations, we talk about it like it's a fact. Even though I think the coolest of all time conversation is more important. The coolest all time, or the coat, if you will, I think determines whether or not you even wind up in the greatest of all time conversation. And I'll give you an example. In the NBA, the conversation is largely, when we talk about the greatest of all time, between which two players? Michael Jordan and LeBron James. Why? Because Michael Jordan's really cool and LeBron's really cool right now. That's why we compare the two of them. You know who never enters that conversation? Bill Russell. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Great players, won multiple rings, more rings than Michael and more rings than LeBron. So if your argument's going to be rings, why not Bill Russell? And you could say, well, the league was smaller back then. Well, you can't blame Bill Russell for playing in a different era. Like, you don't blame Michael Jordan for playing in an era where people couldn't just shoot threes and blow your team away. You don't blame him for that. You can't blame a person for playing in the era that they were in. How come Oscar Robertson doesn't wind up in the conversation? How come Jerry West doesn't wind up in the conversation? Like, these guys are some of the greatest players, legends of the game. And we have the greatest of all time conversation, and we somehow put it down between two people. But here's the thing. There was once upon a time when Kobe was put up against Michael Jordan in that conversation, and Kobe Bryant was trying to win as many rings as Michael, in large part so that he could be officially in that conversation for the greatest of all time. That was one of his big motivators. The other one, of course, was to have more rings than Shaq, which he ultimately did wind up doing. And we allowed that conversation to go on until we saw LeBron and realized, like, we should never have been comparing Michael Jordan and Kobe. That's not a good comparison at all. And Kobe's great, but Kobe's not a greatest of all time caliber player. Like, Kobe doesn't belong in that conversation with a lot of the other guys I just mentioned. But Kobe got into that conversation because Kobe's cool. Now, you can't deny that there is a coolness factor to Kobe. He's kind of aloof. He kind of acts like he's better than you. He kind of gives off the vibes that he actually is better than you. He's a grouch to his teammates, which for whatever reason we think is cool. He's a jerk to the public and to the media, which we also think is kind of cool. There's not a real blueprint for how you get to be cool, because guys are jerks to the media all the time, and that doesn't necessarily make you cool. Like Nick Saban's a jerk constantly. Nick Saban's not cool. Right? Like there's different scales to it. But I do think it's very interesting. I do think it's wildly, wildly fascinating that we will allow people into conversations of greatness based on coolness. Bryce Harper's not the best player in the league. That's Mike Trout. It's not close. That conversation got wrapped up real early in the year because Bryce Harper's on the worst slump of his life. And while a slump doesn't make you no longer in the conversation for the best player in the league, the fact that Mike Trout, you can't even imagine Mike Trout having a slump like this, ought to tell you everything you need to know about which guy is better. But if I had to choose today, I'm starting a franchise, and I've got to choose between Bryce Harper and Mike Trout. Even with the slump, because I know Bryce can play, I'm taking Bryce Harper. And it might seem biased. I'm a Nationals fan. Bryce Harper's a National. But it's not bias. It's not at all. I would take Bryce Harper because Bryce Harper is cooler than Mike Trout. Bryce Harper's going to sell tickets. He's going to sell jerseys. He's going to sell merch. And people will show up and watch Mike Trout. He's great. But Bryce Harper will get people to show up and watch him that aren't baseball fans. And he'll get people to show up and watch him that aren't Nationals fans. People who show up to watch Mike Trout are largely baseball fans who understand how good he is and Angels fans. That's it. Those are the people that are excited about Mike Trout, baseball purists and Angels fans. Well, I'm sorry to tell you, the lane that has, the lane of people that includes, that's a small group of people relative to the star power that Bryce Harper's got. And part of it is that Bryce has got this coolness factor. He's got the hair. He's got the swagger. He hits aggressively. Like when he swings at the ball, and you saw it last night, he hits the ball like he's trying to kill it. He hits the ball like there was something in his childhood and the ball did it. He swings at the ball with it's not even anger. He just likes to hit it. That's fun. That's cool. That's interesting. And the fact that he did show up with the USA socks and the USA sleeve and the Washington, D.C. flag as a headband, all of that stuff adds up. Nobody else did that last night. Nobody else did. Just Bryce. That he's got star power. Right? Like that's what coolness translates into, is star power. And when I look at Major League Baseball, and the reason why I think a lot of young people have trouble getting into the game, I think it's star power. I just don't think the league's got enough. And I don't think that the guys in the league can't be stars. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen Manny Machado in an interview. Manny Machado's got a ton of personality. That guy could be a star. But I see it happen in Major League Baseball all the time. Guys get their dreams crushed. They get their personality squashed. There's a box. You get in the box. Don't express your personality. Don't show up the pitcher. Don't flip the bat. Don't cross over the pitcher's mound. All this stuff is fun. Right? One of the things that we like about sports, especially watching sports at the professional level, a lot of this involves one team being better than another team and letting the other team know it. Our favorite Kobe stories, Michael Jordan stories, Reggie Miller stories, Larry Bird stories, a lot of them involve the arrogance of knowing you're better than the other guy and telling him. We don't let that happen in baseball. Like disrespectful things happen all the time in basketball. James Harden crosses over Wesley Johnson. Wesley Johnson falls down. And if that's not bad enough, James stands at the three-point line and waits for Wesley Johnson to get back up. He stares right at him, and then when Wesley Johnson stands up and starts to walk back towards him, then he shoots the three, and he swishes it, and he goes back. Why? Because I knew I was so good, I could wait for you to get back up. Like we never see this happen in baseball. There's no baseball equivalent to that because we've made sure that there isn't. The unwritten rules keep guys in check, and they hold your personality in place. You make sure that no one expresses themselves. But that's not fun. Expression is fun. Right? Like baseball's supposed to be interesting. And the thing that blows me away is every time, and like for instance, we talked to earlier in the year, we talked to Dale Murphy, two-time MVP, Atlanta Braves legend, should be in the Hall of Fame. You look at his numbers and you have to scratch your head and go, why isn't that guy in the Hall? And he was talking about one of the things that he loved about Ronald Acuna is that how much joy Ronald Acuna plays the game with. And that's crazy to me. Not that Dale Murphy's crazy, but the idea that you could enjoy the fact that it's a novel idea that Ronald Acuna would play the game with joy, that is insanity. That's insane. Like no one has ever said, well, the thing that I like about watching Lonzo is that he plays the game with so much joy, because it's a given when you're playing basketball, right? Like you look at the way that guys act when they score a touchdown in the NFL. Odell Beckham Jr. plays the game with a lot of joy, but no one brings that up. Deshaun Watson last year, before he got injured, he plays the game with a lot of joy. Tim Tebow on his run played the game with a lot of joy. No one brought that up. Why? Because it's a given that you're having fun. The way that we have allowed old rules of baseball that are not written down, they're not official, but there's baseball justice. If you show up a pitcher, you're getting hit with a pitch later. If you are perceived to have disrespected the other team, there might be a fight later. And the way that we have allowed that to control baseball means you're not going to get the expression, means you're not going to get the coolness, means you're not going to get the star power. And that's what really powers leagues. Star power. What powers the NFL? As much as the NFL doesn't want that to be the case, what powers the NFL is Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees. That's what powers the league. As much as the Steelers don't want to admit it, what powers the Pittsburgh Steelers in large part is Antonio Brown, their star, and Le'Veon Bell, their other star, and Ben Roethlisberger, their quarterback, who's a superstar. Like these are the things that control the league. These are the factors. And Major League Baseball, very rarely do you wind up with stars, even though you have guys with star power talent. And you have guys with star power personalities. You just repress the personalities to the point where nobody can express themselves. And it's borderline tyrannical. And I don't understand why. Like, there's no good reason why the game has to be this way. The game of baseball could be much more fun. Yes, you could make the game fun by making it go faster. Kids don't have the attention span that people used to have. This is true. Yes, you could make the game more fun by, I think, Nick LaFew, we were talking one time, and he said, what about instead of going on to extra innings indefinitely, after extra innings for a little while, have a home run derby to decide the winner? That would be seriously cool. That would be seriously cool. And I think that could make the game more fun. But the real answer to me as to how you make baseball more fun, as how you make baseball fun again, is by letting the guys express themselves. And if a guy expresses himself and a pitcher hits him with a pitch, suspend the pitcher. And I mean suspend him to where it hurts. Because there's no place for that in the game. Like, the baseball justice is not entertaining. Entertaining people are entertaining. Right? Like, there's nothing interesting about the situation of a guy about to be hit with a pitch because you know he showed up a pitcher the last time he had an at-bat. There's nothing interesting about that. And it feels very Bush League to me. You're listening to all new Nuga Radio and NugaRadio.com here on 92.7 FM. There is a report from Adrian Wojnarowski, so we got to trust it because when was the last time Adrian Wojnarowski was wrong? I can't think of it. There's a report from Adrian Wojnarowski that the Clippers, the Nuggets, the Suns, the Trailblazers, and the Wizards have all contacted the San Antonio Spurs about Kawhi Leonard. And I was thinking about it, and I thought it seems weird to me that the Nuggets would do this. Because the Nuggets still have a lot to build. Like, the Nuggets still have a long way to go. But every other team, you add Kawhi Leonard, you immediately become a playoff team and possibly a contender. Right? You add Kawhi Leonard to Phoenix, you add Kawhi Leonard and that defense to Devin Booker's offense, to Josh Jackson, who they drafted last year, his defense, and DeAndre Ayton, the center they drafted this year, and his defense. Teams might never score again. If you add Kawhi Leonard to the Suns, you add Kawhi Leonard to the Portland Trailblazers, and you add Kawhi Leonard to Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. And what's interesting about that team is because they've got a big guy who's not a very good defender in Yusuf Nurkic, but he's a very talented offensive scorer. So you make them defensively better, but they've got their guards and they've got a big who can play. One of the most important positions in the NBA, I think outside of the center position, because I do think center actually is the most important position, may not necessarily be the best guy on the floor, but it's the most important position, is the wing position. The three best players in the league are small forwards. LeBron, small forward. Durant, small forward. And Kawhi Leonard, small forward. When Kawhi Leonard is healthy, he's the third best player in the league. And he plays that position, and it's a pivotal position because that's the position that I think creates the most two-way players. Guys who can defend 4 out of the 5 positions on the floor. And in the case of LeBron James, 5 out of 5 positions on the floor. And on the offensive end, can go ahead and give you buckets in a variety of different ways. Kevin Durant can guard 4 out of 5. Kawhi Leonard can guard 4 out of 5. Paul George, who's not quite the offensive player that he used to be, Paul George can guard 4 out of 5. So he's still one of the best two-way players in the league. The best two-way players in the league are all small forwards. That's an important position out on the basketball floor. And if you add that to the Trailblazers, you add that to the guards, you can't win in this league with just guards. You can't do it. Right? That's why the Warriors went out and got Durant. Because Iguodala was their small forward, and Iguodala's aging. Like, he's not able to give you the minutes he was giving you. He was pretty much injured majority of that last playoff run that they went on. Why? That's a very important position on the floor. That's the guy that can play defense and play offense and get you buckets when guarded by a number of different players and can guard a number of different players. It's a pivotal position on the floor in today's NBA. You add him to the Blazers, I mean, that's a scary unit. Even if it's a 1-year rental, it gives you, I think teams have to swing for the fences on this. I think you have to swing for the fences for the 1-year rental of Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard has made it abundantly clear. It doesn't matter where he's going to get traded. He's going to the Lakers as a free agent anyway. And I still think the 1-year rental is worth it because, and I mention this a lot because it's a big deal in the NBA and it's a problem that the league needs to figure out how to solve. All the teams that reached out to the Spurs are either bad basketball teams or teams that are stuck in NBA purgatory. The Clippers, they're a bad team. They're trying to jumpstart themselves by getting Kawhi, and they hope they can keep him. They're located in Los Angeles, where Kawhi wants to go. The Nuggets think that they can boost themselves into contention status with Kawhi. I don't think so, but they think so. The Suns would absolutely be a contender if they added Kawhi. The Trailblazers would absolutely be a contender if they added Kawhi. And then Toronto and Washington want to look at Kawhi as well. And they're the Eastern Conference. Both of those teams have a chance to go straight to the NBA Finals by adding Kawhi because the East is so weak. He would be the best player in the Eastern Conference if he went there now. Without knowing how healthy he is, without knowing how many games Kawhi Leonard can actually play. If Kawhi Leonard goes to the Eastern Conference now, he's the best player in the conference. And he takes whatever team he goes to the NBA Finals. That is a fact. That is 100% a fact. So when I look at it, I go, wow, I cannot believe the sway that this guy has. The only problem is Kawhi Leonard doesn't want to go to any of them. You're listening to All New Nuga Radio and NugaRadio.com here on 92.7 FM. Clutch with Keon Rose. Thank you for joining me today, making me just a small part of your day. How hard would you have to be hit by a screen to call the cops? Next.
Traffic, news, and information. Nuga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
More details after a body was found in a dumpster in Chattanooga. The body was confirmed to belong to 60-year-old Robert Townsend. He was found in a dumpster on Laura Street behind Memorial Hospital. We're still waiting on cause of death. The race for Senate is neck and neck in Tennessee. Marsha Blackburn has narrowly outfunded former Governor Phil Bredesen. Bredesen has outspent Blackburn, however, by over $1 million. Voters decide who their next senator will be in the November election. And 2 fatal crashes in North Georgia. Reports saying the first crash, an SUV ran around a curve too quickly. It rolled over, ejecting the occupants. 44-year-old David Kendrick, the driver, pronounced dead at the scene. In the second crash, a pickup truck ran off the road in Dade County and slammed into a tree. 25-year-old Brittany Morrow from Chattanooga was the passenger. She thrown from the truck and killed. Val St. John for Nuga Radio. News Talk 92.7. Action News now.
Chattanooga Morning News with Russ and Val. Weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. on Nuga Radio. 92.7 FM.
Chattanooga weather.
Becoming fair through your nighttime hours, a little drier and milder overnight, lows into the upper 60s to around 70. Now for your Wednesday, a beautiful day. Lots of sunshine with lower humidity. Still hot, but not bad. Highs of around 90 again on Thursday. Tired of the pressures and hassles of car shopping? Come see what more people are making the short drive to Jackson Chevrolet Buick GMC in Lafayette or online at jacksongm.com. That's Jackson Chevy Buick GMC in Lafayette. And I'm Source E12 Chief Meteorologist Pastor 4.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
I got my business up and running, and it's already expanding. I got lucky. Lucky because I found Signal Voice and Data. Signal Voice and Data can incorporate all of my business information sharing and communications seamlessly, keep my costs down, and let me work more productively with endless connectivity no matter where I might be. That's called working smart, not hard. Go to signalvoicetn.com and bring the future of communication to your business today. signalvoicetn.com.
Hey, dude, check this out. Have you ever seen one so big?
Whoa, look at the size of that.
Look at this little itty bitty one.
Wow, that's really small.
They have them big, small, and everything in between. You'll always find the biggest variety of knives at the knife shop at Frost Cutlery in Ottawa. We're talking about over 40 brands of knives, including Benchmade, WR Case & Sons, Booker, and all the Frost Cutlery brands. Now, Sam, you've been to the cutlery shop. Is it amazing?
Spectacular. The knife shop at Frost Cutlery in Ottawa. They have knives, swords, kitchen knives, ammo, and reloading supplies, plus survival gear.
It's the knife shop at Frost Cutlery, open 7 days a week. Hey, girls, you're going to love this. We're going to the knife shop.
Hey, let's not tell them they have ammo and loading supplies.
The knife shop at Frost Cutlery opens 7 days a week. You'll always find the biggest variety of knives. You're going to love the knife shop at Frost Cutlery in Ottawa. The knife shop.
And tell them David Toulis sent you.
Do you hear that? That, my friend, is not what you're thinking. That is the new 2018 Indian Chieftain Dark Horse. Yeah, Indian. Indian motorcycle is more than a bike. It's an experience, an American icon. And Indian Motorcycle of Chattanooga is the only place you'll find their new 2018 line. Are you ready to ride? Join the club. Go to Indian Motorcycle of Chattanooga. Just look for the sign, 153 and Amnicola. Indian Motorcycle, the true American original.
You want more business. You want to increase your bottom line. You want to spend less on advertising, imaging your business, and general expenses. You need Trade Bank. When you join Trade Bank, you'll get the benefit of free advertising in our monthly magazine, tradebank.com, emails, and mailouts. Join Trade Bank now and receive your Trade Bank debit card with trade credits to spend any way you want. Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Call now for a free consultation. 877-2202. That's 877-2202. Trade Bank of Chattanooga.
Chattanooga Paint and Decorating would like to remind you it's so hot out there. And guess what? Your deck is taking a beating. It's probably starting to show wear. If you're hosting friends, get your deck entertainment ready with a fresh coat of stain and protect it from heat, sun, and rain with a quality sealant. If you want to get to work, Chattanooga Paint and Decorating want to help you. For exterior paint, stains, sealants, and supplies, stop by Chattanooga Paint and Decorating today on Hicks and Pike across from Valvoline or online at ChattanoogaPaint.com.
Nuga Radio.
Are you brain dead? Still voting for pathetic liberals? Take 3 hours of Sean Hannity from 3 to 6.
Nuga Radio.
Then call us in the morning between 9 and 11.
92.7.
Nuga Radio.
So, who's this Markel Fultz thing cosmically speaking to the existence of Joel Embiid? Because I think Joel Embiid may have tried to save Markel Fultz's career. I think so. Because Markel Fultz was the number 1 overall pick taken by the Philadelphia 76ers. He was great at the University of Washington. He was a dominant guard in a league where it's filled with dominant guards. And if you can get one guy that's one of those elite players to add to the elite big in Joel Embiid and your other elite dominant guard in Ben Simmons, you could be going somewhere. You could have something really, really special. And I was one of those people that thought, what it is that the 76ers have building here, this thing is incredible. Then Markel Fultz goes to Summer League and he blows everyone away. He is as good as advertised. Then he hurts his shoulder and it's all downhill from there. Markel Fultz hurts his shoulder, rehabs the shoulder, and when he comes back, he can't shoot a basketball. Now, when he comes back, he can't shoot a basketball, but it's not because he himself is so damaged that he can no longer shoot a basketball. It's because his form is so terrible that he stinks. He actually, and I don't know how you managed to do this, and someone please figure out an explanation to give to me. I don't know how you've managed to do this. Markel Fultz forgot how to play basketball. He forgot how to shoot a basketball. He's a guard in the NBA. Dude, that's like 60% of your job is shooting a basketball. He forgot how to shoot a basketball. And there's a story out that Joel Embiid, the big man for the Philadelphia 76ers, went to Markel Fultz and said, you need to fire your shooting coach. I'm paraphrasing, of course. I don't know exactly what it is that Joel Embiid said. But in fairness, Joel Embiid is a very blunt person. He may have said something like that with a few more expletives. That's what I think happened. Joel Embiid advised Markel Fultz in probably the way that only Joel Embiid could do it to part ways with his shooting coach, Keith Williams. And he did. He moved on to his new shooting coach. See if I can get his name here. Drew Hanlon. Drew Hanlon's the new shooting coach for Markel Fultz. Markel Fultz could have played in Summer League this year as well, but he is in the process of changing his form, and Drew Hanlon doesn't want him to shoot in a game while he is working on changing his form, which makes a ton of sense because your body has a neural network, neural pathways that when you do an action over and over again, your body, that the neural pathways is how your body remembers to do that action so that you can do that action well under pressure, so that you can do that action well when you have to do it quickly. your body has to remember. So Markelle Fultz has to practice shooting properly so that his body remembers in a variety of situations how to shoot properly. And in case you thought, well, okay, Keith Williams was his previous shooting coach. How bad could Keith Williams have actually been? Keith Williams had this young man shooting shots from the ground on his back. Now, that seems like a really Spartan kind of workout for shooting. But the goal of shooting in practice is to shoot as you would shoot in a game. You would never, for any reason, be on your back in a basketball game attempting to shoot a basketball. Kobe Bryant, for example, is one of the most ridiculous people because he practiced shooting a bunch of ridiculous shots. But the difference between Kobe and what Keith Williams, the coach for Markelle Fultz, had him doing is Kobe was practicing a bunch of high difficulty shots that he would later shoot in games. The shots were ridiculous. They're hard. The degree of difficulty, insane. But he's shooting shots that he would shoot in a game. You wouldn't shoot in a game from your back. And of course, if your shooting coach has you shooting from your back, and again, I will put this on the Facebook page as well, because I don't understand it. If your shooting coach has you shooting from your back, of course it's going to mess up your form. You're going to do things with your form to overcompensate from the fact that you're laying on your back. And how did this guy get hired as a shooting coach? How did he get past the 76ers? Because if a player of mine hires a shooting coach, I'd at least like to know who the guy is. What are his credentials? Don't screw up my player. But also, most guys tend not to hire shooting coaches that are bad. Like players have improved their shots in the league. Russell Westbrook's improved his shot. John Wall's improved his shot. These guys couldn't shoot when they got in the league. Rajon Rondo can shoot now. Ricky Rubio can shoot. Couldn't shoot when he first got in the league. And then, of course, you've got a lot of the big guys that came into the league when you were still trying to score twos and now have to shoot threes and have extended their range. Anthony Davis has extended his range to three. All of these guys hired shooting coaches to do it. None of them managed to hire Keith Williams. All of them can shoot. Markelle Fultz can't. How does that happen? That it almost seems unrealistic to me. It is perplexing in how it is that goes down. And Joel Embiid telling Markelle Fultz that he needs to go ahead and part ways with Keith Williams might have saved Markelle Fultz's career because Markelle Fultz is a talented guy. I was watching a video of Markelle Fultz, one of his workouts a month ago. Markelle Fultz has handles. He's got some of the best handles in the league. I feel very confident saying that, even though he hasn't played a second of NBA basketball. Handles are handles. It doesn't matter where you do them. He's got some of the best handles in the league. The problem is he forgot how to basketball. He forgot how to shoot. How do you forget how to shoot? You hire a guy that can't teach how to shoot. The question now is, how do you hire a guy that can't teach shooting? Like, it's pretty obvious when a guy is teaching you. You've played basketball your whole life. You've had coaches tell you how to shoot. The guy that's teaching you how to shoot is just trying to take you to a more advanced level. That's all. You shouldn't be talking to a guy that can't teach shooting and not recognize that the guy can't teach shooting. That seems impossible. And yet here we are. Markelle Fultz not allowed to shoot a basketball for another 3 months while he fixes the shooting form that he had that was fine in the first place. He had this weird hitch in his shot. He would stick his elbow out like he was Lonzo. Like, there was a bunch of stuff that was wrong. And at least with Lonzo's shot is terrible looking, but Lonzo's shot been terrible looking his whole life. That's how he shoots in games. That is not how Markelle Fultz was shooting before Keith Williams. And if Markelle Fultz can't pull this together, he's going to be the silliest bust in NBA history. He's not going to be the biggest bust. He's not going to be the biggest bust because I still contend that was that Anthony? Williams, what was the name of that kid that the Cavs drafted from UNLV? Anthony Bennett. Anthony Bennett. He's not Anthony Bennett. Anthony Bennett was fundamentally bad from the word go. But he's going to be the silliest bust. Because you have busts in NBA history that you just feel bad for some of the guys, right? Like Greg Oden, the number 1 overall pick, gets drafted. His knees he could never stay healthy. That's not his fault. That's just bad luck. Sam Bowie, one of the biggest busts, drafted before Michael Jordan. Again, had the knee injuries, couldn't stay healthy. Again, not his fault. That's just bad luck. That's just bad luck. But you draft a guy, he can shoot when you draft him, and by the time he gets to play basketball, he can't shoot. When have you ever seen that before? That has to be the goofiest way to be an NBA bust ever. Ever. Has to be the worst way. Because I can't think of another way that's worse than that one. Has to be. Has to be. So hopefully this thing works out with Drew Hanlon. Markelle Fultz was my favorite player in that draft. I thought he should have been the number 1 overall pick. It's starting to look stupid in retrospect, the way that Jason Tatum has played at an incredibly high level. But I still thought Markelle Fultz was the best player in the draft. And had he not forgotten how to basketball, I think he still would be. I think he still would be playing at that same level. Donovan Mitchell was great in that draft, and none of us saw Donovan Mitchell coming. And my favorite player was Markelle Fultz, and I wish him the best, not just because he was one of my favorite guys. I wish him the best because he deserves a shot. He deserves a shot at being good in the NBA. There's no point in getting that far and then falling apart. And not falling apart for injuries. Injuries, that can happen to anybody. Falling apart because you just hired a bad shooting coach? You didn't check references or nope, nothing? None of the alarm bells started going off when he was asking you to shoot shots from your back. You didn't say, hey, Coach Williams, when in a game is this going to help me? When am I going to be shooting from my back, Coach? Oh, never? Take a hike. You're listening to all new Nuga Radio, NugaRadio.com here on 92.7 FM. Like, I got the video on here in the studio of him shooting the free throws from his, or not even free throws, just shots from his back. And he's making them. It's weird that he's making them, but this is stupid. This is actually dumb. Wait, there's no... I don't get what's happening here. Why did he have him do that? Keith Williams said in an interview with USA Today that, quote, he did nothing to change Markelle Fultz's shot. But if he's shooting from his back, you're doing something to change his shot. You're telling him to do something that his body... You're telling him to shoot in a way that his body is going to overcompensate for while doing something he's never going to use in a game. It's silly. It's absolutely silly. It's like when I was in public school and we were in algebra. Like most of us in that class were not going to use advanced level algebra. We had to take algebra 1 and 2. Algebra 1, everyone should take because you use algebra in your life. You do. But we didn't need algebra 2. Why did we need algebra 2? We had to take algebra 2. Why didn't you teach kids to balance a checkbook? That's a math skill that people need. They just teach you something that you could actually use in life. Yeah, this just seems fundamentally worthless to me. You're listening to all new Nuga Radio and NugaRadio.com here on 92.7 FM. Let me take your attention to Sterling, Virginia, to an LA Fitness where a pickup game was being played. I don't normally cover pickup basketball on this show. In fact, I don't ever cover pickup basketball on this show because, of course, we're all bad at it, right? I play pickup basketball all the time, and like the best of us still nowhere near the level of a bad Division I college squad. Nowhere near. That's how good, that's how big the gap is between guys who play pickup ball and guys who played in college and guys who made it to the NBA. There's a gigantic gap. It's not worth talking about pickup games, but this is a noteworthy pickup game because one of the individuals in the game ran into a very hard screen and called the police. He called the police. Allow me to repeat myself. He ran into a hard screen and then proceeded to call the police. Now, I've run into hard screens and I needed to sit out because I just got the wind knocked out of me. That's fine. That happens, especially if you just don't see it coming, right? Like your teammates either forget or could not be bothered to call out screens, and then you just plow into one because you just didn't see it. They happen. I set hard screens. I love to. It's fun. And I don't mind running into hard screens. But even on the worst screens that I've run into, it has never occurred to me to call emergency services. What are they supposed to do when they show up? What are they supposed to do? They can't help you. What are you going to press charges? The only reason why anyone should call the police if I run into a hard screen is if I ran into that screen and died. That screen better be so hard. That pick better be so hard that it kills me. And I mean literally kills me. I'm done. That's the only reason why you ought to call the police over a screen. Did somebody die? Then let it go. Let it go. And the police got called, and of course the police don't want to be there. The police officer doesn't want to be there. He's having a conversation with these guys because he's got to say something. He's a cop. But I'm telling you, the police love to help you. But the police love to help you when you actually have a problem. Not when your problem is that you don't know how to handle the trials of life. And I assume that that's what it is. Because if you can't make it through a basketball game where someone hits you with a hard screen, how do you make it through life? How do you make it out of bed in the morning and walk around all day? Do you just collapse when your boss yells at you? Do you fall apart when you miss deadlines? What happens to you if you can't make it through a pickup basketball game without calling the police? And we've had this happen in this country throughout the year. You had the two guys that were at the Starbucks that got the police called on them. You had that little girl that was selling water and some lady called the police on her for selling water, for selling bottles of water, because apparently she didn't have a license to sell bottles of water. Okay. And then you have that family that was at the cookout that had the police called on them because they were being rowdy and loud, as though there was any other way to be at a cookout. You had all of these things happening. And you could make the case that there's racial stuff there. Maybe. I'm not even going to go there. This is where I'm going to go. Unless you are experiencing an actual real-life emergency, do not call emergency services. The police don't like to have their time wasted. The police don't want to be called to a cookout unless you're going to give them some barbecue. The police don't want to be called for some water unless you're going to give them a drink. And the police don't want to be called to your nonsense basketball game unless someone's dead. That's the only way. Like, they don't want to be there otherwise. Like, this poor cop is sitting there trying to figure out what words of sagely wisdom and advice do I give to this knucklehead. Like, that cop is nicer than most people. I would have arrested the guy. Not the guy who set the screen, the guy who called. Like, what are you supposed to do, man? There are people calling 911 all the time for a litany, for a variety of things that are going wrong with their lives. And I don't think that we should live in a world where you call and you can't get through to the 911 operator because some jackwagon is calling the police over a foul call in a basketball game. You just have to have lines. Right? Like you just, this seems obvious to me. And I know it seems obvious to you. I just want you to know that you live in a world with bozos that think that this is okay. I want you to not be as stunned as I was that I have to share the surface of this planet with someone like that. What are you doing? Calling a cop for a screen at a basketball game. When you were a kid, what did your parents teach you that the police were actually for? And not just this guy, all the other people that I have mentioned, the Starbucks employee, all the other people. What did your parents teach you the police were for? My parents said to call 911 under basically two circumstances. One, someone was trying to get into the house. Two, the house was burning down. That's it. Don't call the police for any other reason other than those two reasons. Did a crime happen to you? No. Leave the police alone. Is your house on fire? No. Like leave the emergency people alone. They have enough to deal with when it comes to real emergencies without you making up a nonsense jackwagon emergency and wasting everybody's time. Your time and their time. But mostly their time, because you don't have time to waste. You barely have a life as is. You're listening to all new Nuga Radio, NugaRadio.com here on 96.7 FM. Pleasure Keon Rose. Thank you for joining me today. Remember, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Stay clutch, and I'll see you in 23 hours.
Hi, David Lewis. I made the move, and I hope you will too. 1 o'clock every weekday afternoon, 1 till 3, Nuga Radio.
92.7. 3, 2, 1.
Chatter, Nuga Radio, Digital FM 95.3 HD4, 92.7 FM's news now.
A 19-year-old North Georgia father was indicted in the death of his son, Justin Langston, charged with several charges, including second-degree murder, involuntary manslaughter, and cruelty to children. Investigators say he fell asleep with his infant son while he was intoxicated. That son then fell between a couch and an ottoman and suffocated. Walker County Sheriff's Office is trying to find a 17-year-old girl who they say went missing in a rough part of town. Detectives say she disappeared from her home and could be in the East Lake area of Chattanooga. She's 17 years old, 5'9", 190 pounds, brown hair and hazel eyes. If you know where she is, call the police. Vice President Mike Pence is going to make an appearance in Cleveland on the 21st to pay a visit to Lee University. He'll speak at an event put on by America First Policies. Later, he'll be in Chattanooga to campaign for Marsha Blackburn. Fire crews worked hard this morning to put out a commercial fire in St. Elmo. The smoke could be seen for miles. Russell Stroud, Nuga Radio News Talk 92.7 Action News. Now.
Sean Hannity, weekday afternoons from 3 to 6 p.m. on Nuga Radio 92.7 FM.
Nuga Radio 92.7. Chattanooga weather.
Becoming fair through your nighttime hours.